I am 42 years old this year. My husband is a salesman. He is very busy at work. He is away from home most of the time. Sometimes he has to go abroad. I often don't see him for half a year. He occasionally has some gossip outside. To be honest, I am definitely not completely indifferent in my heart, but I choose not to think about it. First, he has a high income and can provide a good material condition for the family. Second, he is also very good to me. Every time he comes back, he will buy me all kinds of luxury goods. To be fair, our relationship as husband and wife is generally good. Last year, my son went to high school and started to live on campus. I work in human resources management in a shopping mall. The job is quite easy. Every day when I get home from get off work, I feel that my life is empty. I usually pay attention to maintenance and love to wear branded fashion. I look like I am in my 30s. I don't know from which day I suddenly had an idea in my mind. I want to find a man to kill this boring time. I know in my heart that I can't find acquaintances, nor can I find colleagues in the same field. There is no way. I can only try my luck on dating apps. In fact, I knew that what I was looking for on this app was, to put it bluntly, a sex partner. I wrote 2 words in my personal description on the dating app, young woman. Unexpectedly, someone approached me soon. I picked a person who looked pleasing to the eye to meet. During the meal, everyone knew what was going on. As soon as he opened his mouth, he asked me, "Do your breasts sag?" At that time, I felt very humiliated and felt very uncomfortable. After the meal, I ran away quickly with the excuse that I had something to do. After returning home, I reflected on myself and felt that I was still not able to let go. If I couldn't let go, what was the point of playing? In this way, I didn't use the dating app for 2 or 3 months. But later, I couldn't help it and downloaded it again. When I opened it, wow, there were dozens of people who asked me out, and some of them looked like I was liking them. This time, I didn't dare to meet in person and chatted with the other party on the phone first. As a result, the topic of sex came up. He asked me whether I gave birth to my child by natural birth or cesarean section. I said natural birth, and he replied, "Oh." I knew what he meant. The quality of sex life might be affected after a normal birth. At that time, I felt a little inferior and unhappy. I asked him how old he was. He sent me a picture of his genitals. I was so shocked that I almost vomited. It seems that I am still a conservative person at heart. This time it was a failure again. Later, I met an unmarried young man. He said that he had a strong desire and that he liked me. After chatting for a few days, he told me that he hoped I would wear black stockings and read high heels to meet him. I was really speechless at that time. I'm not a prostitute. You didn't pay me, but you still asked me this and that. I am in my 40s. What does it look like to wear black stockings, short skirts, and read high heels? It's just a joke. I found that many men felt superior and favored me when they saw that I was in my 40s, as if I should be grateful for their invitation. I was so angry that I re-registered an account, changed my profile picture, and changed my age to 32 years old. This change really worked. The people who came to date me were not as presumptuous as before. Later, I met a polite man. His temperament and conversation were the type I liked. He was also a family man and had been separated from his wife for many years. We made an appointment to meet. During the meal, we had a very happy chat and the atmosphere was very good. After the meal, he said that we should get a room. I was a little entangled at the time, and I agreed half-heartedly. After entering the room, I was very nervous and my heart almost jumped to my throat. He was quite good at comforting people. He hugged me and kept praising me. Slowly, I relaxed and got into the state. But when we really went to bed, I found that we were not in sync at all. That feeling is really hard to describe. Anyway, it was very uncomfortable. I just felt a little bit, and he couldn't do it. After that, he comforted me and told me to come back later because we only bought 2 condoms, and we had already used one, but it didn't work, so the second one couldn't be wasted. He kept the condom hanging there limp, and it looked so awkward, like a silkworm that had shed half of its skin but not shed it. While waiting, he covered us both with a quilt. When I thought about the greasy condom stuck on the quilt, and the quilt in the hotel was so dirty, I felt nauseous. I gritted my teeth, reached out and pulled the condom off and said to him, "Let's make an appointment again in the future. There's no rush." But in fact, I knew in my heart that this so-called later would never happen again. And I heard people say that men with big noses have strong sexual functions. But I think this is pure nonsense. After this experience, I decided that I would find a younger person for a date in the future. Soon, I fell in love with a young man who was so handsome. We hooked up after a few words. Meet, have dinner, and then go to get a room. As a result, I was so upset when I got on the bed. This guy had no skills at all. He just used brute force. He knocked my head against the board at the head of the bed. If I hadn't struggled to get a pillow, I felt that there would be a dent on my head the next day. What's worse is that I didn't feel good at all, and I had to keep answering him. Is it good? What's the feeling? I thought at that time, I really need to find a time to sit down and have a good chat with him about what foreplay is, what 9 shallow and 1 deep is, and what gentle and powerful is. After he finished, he went to take a shower naked. I looked at his back and felt a sense of emotion. This kid is so thin, and his back looks like my son. When he came back from the shower, I asked him and found out that he was still in college. I felt very guilty at that time, thinking that I had done something wrong. So I took out 1,000 yuan from my wallet and gave it to him. He said at first that he didn't need it, saying that he had a scholarship. But I could see that he actually wanted it, so I stuffed the money into his jeans pocket, and he didn't refuse. His jeans were on the luggage rack. When I returned to the bed, he hugged me silently for a while, and neither of us spoke. At that time, I was thinking, my son has grown up. If my son is like this outside, how distressed and angry I would be. The next morning, the boy asked me if he wanted to buy me food and send it up, and I was quite touched at the time. I advised him to have a good relationship, and he told me that girls nowadays are too realistic, and they always ask you to buy them iPhone 7 and iPhone 8, which is particularly snobbish. He can't catch up with the pretty ones, and the ugly ones still think they are beautiful. Besides, he is about to graduate, and he is thinking about the postgraduate entrance examination, and he doesn't want to delay others. After the young man left, I was full of guilt and immorality, so I blocked him. Then I found another young man who just started working. He may have seen that I am older and I am unwilling to pay for meals and hotel rooms. After entering the room, he only wanted me to give him a blowjob, but he himself was unwilling to help me. I felt very boring at the time and thought to myself, have I been so cheap? I decisively blocked him. I have been tossing and turning on this road of hooking up for half a year, and there is really no one who can be fully compatible with each other at the first time. It is really too difficult for two people to fit in, and it is not a simple exercise that can make people feel comfortable. Sometimes the feeling is not good at the beginning, and it is even more difficult to play well later. Sometimes the two people can't talk to each other at all, and the interest is gone all of a sudden. Sometimes you have to be on guard against the other party being a liar, afraid of being secretly photographed, and the whole person is highly nervous. Sometimes the other party is too selfish, and I want to push him off halfway. Slowly, I found that for women, sex is not the most important thing. Finding someone who understands cold and hot can talk well, the relationship can develop step by step, and the body can still be highly compatible. This is what I really want. But I thought about it again and felt that I was too greedy. If I really met such a person, I would definitely not be able to handle the situation properly, and it might even affect both families in the end. I have been on a date about 10 times, and now I understand. Everyone just wants to be comfortable and doesn't want to pay more. Some people deliberately choose cheap dishes when ordering food, and the conditions of the hotels they open are terrible. They don't want to fall in love with me. They must be thinking about saving costs. It's really boring. This kind of hookup behavior not only wastes time, but also affects the mood. Sometimes when I read other people's hookup experiences, saying how indulgent and wonderful they are, I think, maybe I am born unlucky. I have never had a good hookup experience. Another time, the other party was a teacher. Maybe he was more cautious, worried that I had a sexually transmitted disease or something. Before doing it, he actually opened my legs and looked at me carefully with glasses. My posture at that time was like giving birth to a child. I laughed immediately, and after laughing, I felt particularly disgusted. Later, I deleted all those dating software from my phone. My husband came back a few days ago, and we had a good couple's life for 2 days. I felt very at ease and had a sense of happiness. Thinking back to the absurd things that happened in the past 6 months, I really wanted to ask my husband, what were those casual affairs you had outside like? Were they all smooth sailing, or did they also bring shame and trouble? But in the end, I didn't ask anything. I thought to myself, if he really had someone who was particularly satisfactory and satisfactory outside, he would have run away long ago. Why would he buy me a lot of things? Why would he give me his bank card for safekeeping? And why would he put family and children first? Although there have been some minor frictions between us, he is still the best person to me so far. We have come a long way, stumbling, but we have also experienced ups and downs together. I really shouldn't have been confused by those so-called fashionable behaviors on the internet. I really can't afford to play with them psychologically, energetically, and emotionally. Fortunately, I understand now that it is not too late to cherish the ordinary life from now on. In the future, I will stay with my husband and my children and live our little life well.